our talk today, our lesson, and teaching us about awakening our soul.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie. All right. Wow, I love looking out at all your faces. It's beautiful. There were two things that happened on Friday to prepare me for this Easter talk. So I'll tell you about the second thing first. Jackson and I were sitting on the couch on Friday evening watching various YouTube videos. Do you ever do that? Well, it's interesting. So we found one where there was this man and his nephew who were exploring petroglyphs in some rocky area of the southeast. And after they were exploring that, they were going to get ready to watch for UFOs when the sun went down. And they had just seen this light blinking in the distance. And they were trying to figure out, is that light a truck or a car, or is it something else? And we were watching too. And then all of a sudden, it went black. Not the screen, our whole house. The electricity went out. So we sort of sat in shock for a couple of minutes, and then there was still a bit of light in the western sky, so we puttered around finding candles, and we wondered, what is this all about? And it was even more eerie when I stepped out the front door, and the neighbors to the north had light. And in fact, the neighbors over there had light. And the ones across the valley had. Everyone except for a couple of houses right in our neighborhood had light. No, we'll never watch a UFO thing again. So, during that lights out time, I had just a tiny sense of how disconcerting, how dismaying, how puzzling it must have been for the disciples as they waited in the darkness of unknowing after the crucifixion. It's a pretty powerful way to prepare a person for a Holy Saturday, which is when we think of Jesus laying in the tomb. But in a strange reversal, it was at 12:01 Saturday morning that the lights came on. I only know because the TV started blaring. And I thought of the words of Psalm 139. Even the darkness is light to you. The second thing that happened, as some of you know, I was asked to participate in the noon community Friday service at St. Joseph's Catholic Church. And out of respect for Monsignor Ecker, who just turned 90, who'd asked me, kind of begged me, I said yes. Remind me next year. Just say no. Why? What's my problem? Well, it was so hard to sit there listening to songs and reflections that poured shame and guilt upon everyone there. We were all responsible for Jesus' crucifixion, is the story. And it's a theology that I grew up with, and it worked for me. I fully embraced it for many years. And if it still works for you, please know that my intent is not to make you or any of you feel bad or wrong for that. The belief is called substitutionary atonement. And it has worked itself so thoroughly into our culture that most of us just assume it must be true. And in actuality, it didn't take hold in Christianity until the 11th century. So there were a lot of centuries where this was not the usual way of thinking about the crucifixion and the resurrection. But here's how the substitutionary atonement interpretation goes. What it says is that God the ultimate judge over all, cannot abide sin in any form. And we are all born sinful. Uh-oh. So there's no, original blessing. That's what brought me into unity through the Celtic understanding that we're all born blessed, we're beautiful, we're wonderful, not original sin. So Jesus then became the perfect sacrifice for our sins, taking them upon himself on the cross as our substitute, thus making a way for us to be at one with God. At one-ment, atonement. So he's the substitute, and instead of God's judgment or condemnation, because he's taken our place, we are given God's love. And for me, it's a little different. The wonderful news of the resurrection is that life overcomes death. But it's tempered in this substitutionary atonement idea with doubt and confusion about whether I really am loved or not. And if I do something wrong, am I going to be out of the circle of divine love? So, are you ready for a different approach? When I came to unity, I finally found a way of expressing a more healing, loving approach to the story of Jesus' death and resurrection. So looking at it metaphysically, his story became my story, became your story, became the story of all humankind and even of creation itself. So here's the interpretation that makes sense to me now. And see if it resonates with you. God is the presence and power of absolute love and goodness. Everywhere present and always active in our lives and in the world. So that's the first principle, the first unity principle. And there is no one or nothing that is outside of that love, because we are all created in God's image, created from the same stuff, from love. And it's so interesting that science is catching up that love materializes as light. And light is the building blocks, right, of all of creation. So we're all part of that love. And that is the second unity principle. There are 5. I'm only going to show you those 2. Okay. Love is the source, the building block of everything in creation. And when we don't remember that, or, maybe we never learned it, that's when things go haywire. Divine love didn't put Jesus on the cross. Can I say that again? Divine love did not put Jesus on the cross. Our human belief in separation does that. Whenever we individually and collectively forget our unity with that love and with one another, hate happens. Cruelty happens. Confusion and fear happen. And when we remember who we truly are, kindness happens. Forgiveness happens. Minds and hearts open, and light dawns in us and around us, and joy abounds. Doesn't it feel like that? When you know it's not about you being judged, it's about you being empowered. What do I mean empowered? Well, in this version of the Easter story, Jesus didn't come to save us from our sins. And sins just means we miss the mark. Do we miss the mark? Absolutely. Every one of us misses the mark from time to time. But when we understand this power of love within us, that is us, we discover that we have the power to turn ourselves around and make a different choice. And those different choices are to come from love rather than fear. And that's where we're empowered. We're empowered to make those choices. So what the story of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection reveals is that no matter what happens to us in our lives, and there will be things that feel like crucifixions, right? That try to cross out the love that we know is there. But there is nothing that can separate us from that love. It's who we are. It's what we're made of. And death, even when all things come to that physical death point, death is simply a transition. The end of this earthly incarnation. And an entrance into more. Into more what? Life and love. Absolutely. So, to me, that's a reason for celebration. For waking up on a kind of cloudy Easter day and saying, yes, yes to life, yes to love, yes to all that leads us forward into joy. So I have a little gift that I want to give to each one of you that'll help us to remember this Easter message. And I just love doing stuff like this. Okay, and so I want us to unpack these all together, so don't open anything up, okay, until, so just hold it. What could it be? It does definitely have that, doesn't it? You are such good kids. What teacher said. So, yeah, go ahead. You guys can come up. Oh, wait. What do you notice first? Well, what's a butterfly got to do with anything? Transformation. Okay, so we all know the story of how the caterpillar is eating voraciously and then all of a sudden it decides to create a cocoon and it goes into the cocoon, and what happens in the cocoon? Not just like that, The whole caterpillar turns into goo. And out of that goo, there are imaginal cells that start to find each other. And gradually, the form of the butterfly begins to be created. Okay, when the butterfly is first coming out of the cocoon, is it ready to go? No. And if you try to help it, you will not help it, because it has to struggle to get its wings all dried off and strengthened and everything. But when all that is done, woo-hoo! So I think the point of transformation through the butterfly is that when we look for spiritual awakening, we think we can make just a few little changes in our lives. And it may actually call us to let go of everything we knew and step into a whole new way of being. So, yeah, when you say, I want to be spiritually awakened, get ready. What part of our old lives might we need to let go of, allow to disappear in order to finally be free to move out in love? So then our next thing is that you can take the butterfly wings apart. They slide apart. And if you rip it by chance, no big deal, because what really matters is what's inside. Okay? All right. Okay, so inside you'll find a mint, right? All right, so I want you to hold that mint in the palm of your hand for a minute. Can you smell it through there? Okay, what's this mint got to do with anything about Easter? I just thought of this on the way here today. It is sealed, right? And yet, the fragrance permeates. There is nothing that can stop that mint from showing its character, no matter if it's sealed or not. So you think of Jesus in the tomb, the sealed tomb, and there was nothing that could keep his spirit from moving out and blessing us continually. I'm not going to let you eat it yet. Oh, eat it if you want to, but I also believe it tells us about the sweetness of divine love. And anything else? Okay. So then what is our last thing that's in here? We have a little golden light. All right, so it's gold because you are precious. And what I want you to do, you also are the light of the world. So what I'd like you to do first is I would like you to turn it on, if you haven't turned it on already, and then just hold it by your heart. And just softly say to yourself, I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world. Now, take it in. Now turn to somebody around you and clink your light and say to them, you are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. Clink. You are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. All right, I'm gonna clink with Alan back here. Because I don't want you to feel left out, Alan. You are the light of the world. Thank you. All right. What's the last thing you suppose? Let's put it up. And let's say with a lot of celebration in our voices, we are the light of the world. And so we are. So we are, and so we let it be